Good morning, General. You are still under oath. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, General.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioner.
General, when we parted yesterday, Commissioner Khumalo had posed a question to us regarding some aspects that we had already covered. And you recall that we undertook to answer that question when we start today, before we continue with your testimony. And I propose that we do so now. And Commissioner Khumalo will correct me if I misquote him, but sorry, I got distracted. The gentleman behind me keeps talking, so it's distracting. If I understood his question correctly, Commissioner Khumalo wanted to understand, in respect to the 121 dockets, and I guess for lack of a better phrase, the ownership of those dockets. He wanted to understand whether the dockets that we reference as Eastern Cape dockets are owned by the trust team or they are owned by, let's say, the Eastern Cape Police Service. If I understood the question.
I understood the question differently,
okay.
But let me let my colleague.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The first question, good morning, General Mkhwanazi.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Yes. You will recall that, and then maybe while we are at it, Advocate Silo, we should just clarify the letter from the Minister containing the directive to disband the task team.
Yes.
We kept referring to it as the 2 January 2025 letter. It is in fact dated 31 December.
Indeed, Commissioner, it's the 31st of December. 2 January is when he learnt of it.
When General Mkhwanazi first learnt of the letter.
Indeed.
Yes, and what I tried to understand or establish, General Mkhwanazi, is your understanding of the instruction to disband the task team and what became of the task team. In other words, the members of the task team subsequent to the instruction to disband it. Did they all go back to their stations or to their provinces? What became after you became aware of of the instruction?
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, as I said yesterday, that the instruction was not officially given to me. It will have been sent to the National Commissioner. And National Commissioner did not communicate anything to me. But what I know of is that the team continued working. It never stopped. However, the numbers of members that were deployed in the team were reduced. Now, the reason of the perhaps reduction of the total number of personnel deployed might have been influenced by the budget. But I guess the National Commission is in a better position to explain what led into the reduction in terms of the number of personnel. So there's quite a lot of police officers that withdrew and went back to their stations, whereas others remained.
All right. So if I understand you correctly, until there was official communication to you from the National Commissioner, you did not take steps to disband the task team.
That's correct. I did not take steps to disband the task team to date.
And perhaps then, and thank you for the clarification, it is an aspect that we were going to cover, might as well then complete it, to give a sense of the timeline. As we understand things, the letter is dated the 31st of December 2024, and it is dispatched to the office of General Masemola as the National Commissioner on the same date. The General becomes aware of it on the 2nd of January. He thereafter contacted General Masemola, and General Masemola indicated that he did not participate or contribute to that letter, and that in fact he had been away until the 14th of January. In the interim, a letter is dispatched by General Sibia that we referred to of the 4th of February 2025. And we dealt with this letter. There are two of them, the 4th of February 2025, and then one for the 24th of April 2025. In that period, there were engagements, as the witness testified, regarding the possibility of possibly reversing the decision. So in the meantime, the work continues, and up until April, the task team still has its files. You will recall that the witness indicated yesterday that for this period, they were approved 3 months of budget. And that was to run in this time, in this unclear time, until recently then the budget for the entire year was approved. I'm not going to testify and answer whether it existed, and I would like to park it there because we are going to lead into other evidence where we demonstrate the confusion that then reigned as to whether is the task team in existence, is the task team not in existence. You will recall in his evidence yesterday, General Mkhwanazi indicated that from his perspective, he didn't believe the minister had the authority to disband. So everything is up in the air, but I think by lunchtime we'll have successfully demonstrated what confusion reigned, and whether or not it was disbanded, I believe at the end of the day becomes a legal question for us to argue. Thank you. Maybe if I check with the commissioners, last night in our preparation, we had understood that perhaps we rushed through the question of the dockets. And I don't know if you would like us to, we're thinking to recap on that before we move to the next point.
We are in your hands.
Oh, okay.
You know best what you want to do and what you want to achieve.
It would be for your benefit, but it is important then, I think, that the commissioners understand the whole issue of dockets, the impact of the removal of dockets, which in turn feeds into the very question that the Commissioner Khumalo has posed, that being the latter being the bigger question. For this purpose, I would like to project the what was put up, yes, during
yesterday I complained privately, of course, about the fact that my co-commissioners don't have these monitors. I do have one in front of me. My co-commissioners should have those as well. They should not be expected
Indeed.
to turn and look across there.
And we do this on the assumption.
May I plead with the Secretariat that this should be attended to. Of course, I did not talk to you, Commission Secretary, so I'm not blaming you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry I didn't check. Following discussion after the first hearing, the assumption was that the equipment has since been provided and therefore they will have. And I do apologize that we are here, but I think this is the only slide that we'll have to project for today. Yes. Thank you, Chair. And I was giving the Chair the assurance that I think it's the only slide that we'd have to project. The next one would be tomorrow, and I hope the problem would be resolved by tomorrow. General, if I may ask you to refer to your statement in volume 1, and in particular to paragraph 87. We dealt with the contents of paragraph 87 yesterday, and there you give a breakdown of the dockets as you classify them, 90 parallel cases, and you talk of ad hoc cases, University of Fort Hare, and traditional leaders' investigations. Yesterday, when the chief evidence leader made his opening address, he put up this slide. And on this slide, he indicated, he made a point under the date of the 26th of March 2025, that on that date, 118 dockets were handed over to, on the instruction of General Sibia. And on the 10th of April, an additional 3 were handed over, and bringing the total to 121. So I want us to start the conversation from there. And you explain in the context of what's on the screen, whether or not those, what is happening there, why we ended up handing them over in 2 batches, and what is the ownership, quote unquote, of what you term the Eastern Cape dockets. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's a limitation from me to explain in details as to the movement of these dockets to the head office, because I was not the one that moved them. I believe that the investigating team who handed the dockets to the head office will perhaps come before the commission so that they can explain the whole process that they followed, including the scanning of the document prior to handing over and the audit that they conducted when they received them going back. My involvement, commissioners, is when I first received a briefing in May that the docket are already in Pretoria. And the briefing I received, which I referred to in my statement, is that 121 dockets are in Pretoria. So it was not necessarily explained that they went in patches. So it was said 121 dockets are already in Pretoria. And when I asked as to who directed that, and the response was from Kellen Matlo, was that Gerald Kumalo is the one who ordered that those dockets must come up. So the people that facilitated that move, I think they are better positioned to explain. My involvement only is limited to the briefing I get and the inquiry started making thereafter.
Thank you for that, General, and I appreciate
Your microphone is off.
I apologize. Thank you for that clarification, and your limitations are appreciated. Perhaps then we could turn to the question of the Eastern Cape dockets. We tend to refer to them as Eastern Cape dockets. We appreciated from your evidence yesterday that the mandate of the task team was extended by the President to include investigations into the Fort Hare killings. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So can you at least, insofar as, explain to the Commission, insofar as the task team is concerned, what is the status of the Eastern Cape dockets? Are they the task team dockets, quote unquote, or what is the real situation there?
As I explained again yesterday, Commissioner, in terms of the ownership of a case docket, it is a police station where the docket was registered. So in this instance, those dockets belong to police stations in the Eastern Cape. Therefore, they fall under the jurisdiction of the Provincial Commission in Eastern Cape. However, because there is a directive that a team must conduct that investigations, which means, therefore, the team have to account for those dockets. They go to the police station, they take over those dockets, and they conduct investigation, but they must update a system which is accounted for at the police station, because the performance of the docket has to be reflected at the police station, regardless of where the docket is. So the team, they are responsible for the docket for the period of the investigation. Until the investigation is complete, then they give the docket back. So in terms of the role that the team then plays in this regard is a temporal ownership of the docket in as far as the work they are busy doing. But as soon as they complete the work, then they transfer the docket back so that it gets to be filed and it's accounted for at that particular station.
Thank you. Now, on the return of these dockets, you deal with that at your paragraph 141 and 142 of your statement. You referenced yesterday an analysis that was conducted on those dockets when they were received back from head office. Can you briefly take us through the process of subsequently became your understanding, what the team did with the dockets prior to handing them over, and the analysis that was conducted when they were returned?
Commissioner, as I indicated, the movement of the docket to Pretoria did not involve me. But through my inquiry from the team, I was informed that they had scanned every single docket before handing it over, so that they keep record of the status of those dockets when they handed them over. I get involved when the docket has to come back to KZN. And my involvement is started with a meeting that was held between myself, the acting divisional commissioner of detective services, as well as General Kumalo, and my deputy provincial commissioner, acting Major General Gopal. So we had a meeting, all of us, where we discussed how we're going to handle the process of receiving the dockets back. So from that meeting, the agreement that we reached is what we did thereafter, which was to have the very same team responsible from the political killings task team to hand over the docket, those that has a database of the status of the docket as they handed them over, to come over to Pretoria and meet up with detective services who are in possession of those dockets and go through every single page of the dockets, meaning auditing the status of the docket as they are still in Pretoria versus the status of the docket as per the scanned copies that they had in their possession, just to cross-reference to check whether is everything still as it was when it was handed over. So that is a process that was followed thereafter, and upon agreement, then the dockets were signed off back to the task team as in the same form as they were handed over.
And would it be correct for the Commission to understand that a full audit then was conducted on those dockets, and that there could potentially be a report, an audit report available regarding the matters you've just addressed?
That is correct, Commissioner. A full audit was conducted. Commissioners are going to pay attention. You're going to see later when the audit report is produced that is going to perhaps, as the team are discussing between the head office and the task team, that the number of dockets differs. Differs in the sense that it is not 121, but it's 123. The counting rules of the task team is that when they have a case that involves, which is a priority as per the criteria, typical example, a political leader was killed, a case is registered. And through the investigation, they pick up that there's another docket that is linked to perhaps the suspect or the weapon that was used. It becomes a parallel case. So they take that docket and they merge it with the main one. So it becomes a sub-docket to the main docket. So when the team counts, they count the main docket, they don't count the second one, because it's a parallel investigation. It might be finalized and they achieve success on it, take it to court and finalized. But the counting rule is that they count the main docket that was a main focus area. So when the team handed over, there were 2 of the parallel cases that were attached to the main dockets. So when the team spoke about the handing over the docket, they talk about 121. But when this audit is done and the head office team who did not understand the counting rules, they then said, but there's additional 2 dockets that are inside other dockets, which therefore means there must be additional 2, which makes the number to be 123. So there was then a discussion and explanation between the team that our counting rules, we count the main docket, we don't count the second one. But when they were scanned to be handed over to head office, even the sub-dockets were scanned. So everything was as it was handed. So the report will reflect that. I thought I must bring that to the fore so that there's no confusion. But an audit was conducted and finalized, and the report was produced as such.
Thank you. Thank you, General. At paragraph 141, you draw the conclusion based on the analysis that the team conducted and reported to you on, that no investigations were done on any of the dockets. Do you see that?
Yes, I see.
At paragraph 141. At paragraph 142, you give examples, an example of the extent to which there was a complete failure to advance any of the dockets from the time they were taken until they were returned. Could you speak to what's in 142?
Commissioners, what I'm trying to reflect here is that as a police officer who knows about the criminal investigations, once a case docket has got an instruction from court to arrest a suspect, and such an instruction must be carried out with speed. Now, for the period when these dockets were handed over to the head office, there were 5 of those dockets that had instruction to arrest suspects. Because the instruction came before the execution of those arrests, those dockets sat amongst the total dockets in the head office, and those arrests were not effected. What is more troubling about this is that the head office detective services had conducted some inspection on these dockets, as I indicated yesterday. In their inspection, they will have seen, and they even confirmed some of them through the entries that they made, that the investigation is complete on the docket and suspects should be arrested. The least that they could have done is to take the dockets and go and look for that suspect and arrest the suspect. The reason why it was not done, I would not know. They're in a better position to explain. But I believe perhaps it could be that they were not familiar with the case, that the content of the docket itself. So it was going to be difficult for them to execute an arrest on something that they don't necessarily know, based on instruction of the prosecutor, because the docket, some of them are in volumes, and is quite a lot of information inside those dockets. So the 5 that had instruction, those instructions were not carried out. That was an easy thing to prove that there was work done on those dockets. But as the team were auditing it, they could realize that the investigation work was not done on the dockets.
I think you've clarified something I wanted to get clarity on. You referred to an instruction to arrest coming from the court, and I wanted to just get clarity on that, because I cannot see a court giving that kind of instruction. But later, as you went on in your testimony, you referred to a prosecutor. So did you mean an instruction from a prosecutor to arrest?
Yeah, well, when we talk court in our language, Commissioner, we combine both the NPA and the judiciary. So when we say the docket is gone to court in our language, when we say the docket gone to court, it does not necessarily mean it's been placed on the roll. It means it's gone to the prosecutor. So the prosecutor works on it, and then the prosecutor decides to place it on the roll. But when in our language, we talk about dockets to court, dockets from court. That's our terminology. But we mean that NPA.
And indeed, in previous years, prosecutors were closely connected to courts and were even housed in court buildings. So maybe that's something historical. But you've clarified it. Thank you very much, General.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.